Welcome to the Busy Beaver Club, the number one club for getting your mind, your emotions, your physical self all back into, even financial. By the way, we're going to have something about financial today. So, welcome. We're about to have a great time. Remember to leave some stuff down below. All right. This is, I've done a lot of stuff in my life, but financial area, I'm not as smart as most people. So, I always like to get smarter people than me. And I've known Monica for I don't know, 3, 4 years now, and she's really helped me a lot. And I thought, what better person to help you guys and just see what she knows. And if you've got questions, go ahead and put it down below, and we'll try to get to them. Monica Kaufman, tell us a little story. Tell us about yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Okay, so I am the person that's going to help you get the hell out of your own damn way so that you can actually move from just earning money to building wealth. And what does that mean? Wealth is what pays you. Whether you go to work or whether you don't, wealth is there to pay you. So the idea is to move from where you have to go to work and you need it to pay your bills to where work is optional.
So everybody says that. No offense, okay? And you know me.
Right.
I'm the consultant that says what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. But here's the problem that I have with what you just said. Most of us don't do it.
Right.
What the? I mean, we know. So it's like we know we need to breathe in and out, but for some reason, when it comes to finance, we breathe in and we don't breathe out. We just like, okay, yeah, we'll take it all in, but we don't, do the things that we need to do. So what can you? I know there's some stuff that you're pretty smart in this area. This is where you're really quite good. But so just as a brief history, or I don't know. You know what? So I'm going to break the rules here. I've known you for a while, and you've got a story that always resonates me every time I hear it, and it's the two families, and the one is the high, and the one is the blue collar. I think you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So do you mind just telling that story? Because to me, it sets the tone, and it makes me go, oh, I actually need to listen.
Okay,
That
so
actually got me to think about it, actually. So,
when I first started out at Merrill Lynch as a financial advisor, I remember a couple of the old guys came to me and said, read The Millionaire Next Door. And I'd heard about it. And then I thought, okay, why? And then I found out why, because I got two referrals right about the same time. The first one was for a very highly educated doctor who made a tremendous amount of money. This was 20 years ago, and his base salary was over 500,000 a year. Plus, he had bonus, and he had 4 children and a beautiful, beautiful wife. Unfortunately, he'd had a stroke in his late 40s. And if it wasn't for the long term disability insurance payment or insurance policy his firm or practice had made him take out, he and his family would have had a very, very serious problem. The other referral came in because I do something called special needs financial advisory. And that's just a fancy way of saying I help people who have a family member who, through no fault of his or her own, won't be able to support themselves because of disability. And how do you manage to meet other financial goals when you have to provide for this person? So this family came in. The child itself herself was profoundly disabled, and they were two very blue collar people. They'd never earned more than 55,000 each per year separately. They made a commitment from the onset of their marriage that they would live off of one income and invest the other. The only debt they ever carried was their modest house. They paid for their cars in cash. The life insurance for their daughter was fully paid up. The trust agreements were updated every 5 years, and over $3 million in liquid assets rolled over. And that was 20 years ago. So what it did was it proved to me that it's not just about what you earn, but it's what you do with the money and how you manage it. And the millionaire next door model is very real. So after those two referrals came in, I bought the book, devoured it again. And every once in a while, it lives on my bookshelf. Every once in a while, I go back over it because it's very, very real. So that's that story, and it's very real, and I keep seeing it over and over and over again. It's
so it's
not
interesting. You actually go back to the book that you read 20 plus years ago, and you still get stuff out of it. So,
Hmm.
how does that how does that work as far as learning about being financial literate?
Okay, so 80% of us are not. And it's through no fault of our own. I realized my mother had grown up with nothing. She was born in 38. Her parents had very little. They had to divide the food, and her older brother got a double portion of meat, and she got very little. Okay. Her first job was between second and third grade, and that's how she had the money to pay for school clothes and shoes. And so my mother, when she got divorced, all of a sudden the financial fears just went down on her. And if it wasn't for my stepfather, they would have had a problem because she never really acquired a lot of the skills. And I have to admit, the financial advisor she found, who was a friend of hers, and made her feel like she was being well taken care of. There were a lot of things about this woman I did not like in the things she did. It's not anyone's fault that we're in this situation. The industry says 80% of us are here, and it's been going on for between 4 to 5 generations, depending on how you calculate it. So it's not your fault. The reality is, it will be your fault from this day forward if you don't address it. And what I've learned, and the reason why the Millionaire Next Door book keeps resonating with me, and even the updates and the information on the Millionaire Mind, the reason why it resonates with me is that I'm convinced at least 90% of success comes from what goes on back here. And ultimately, we've inherited through our childhood and through the culture and the people we surround ourselves with a view on wealth and money that affects every decision we make with it, whether we're aware of it or not. And that's the piece. You have to deal with the mindset and the mind, and then work on the habits and create systems that reinforce the habits and create relationships that reinforce the habits that'll get you to where you go, as opposed to what you casually acquired throughout your lifetime up until now. That's the challenge.
Okay, so you said something, and a lot of my viewers will probably understand it, but some won't. So I like to cover all the bases. When you said it's back here,
Yep.
people, you weren't pointing to your ears. What was that? What was that for?
That reptile brain, that ancient reptile brain that we all have.
What?
Okay.
How does it help and hurt us? Or one of not
It's
the.
there to protect us, and it's there to reflect our conception of reality, and it's been shaped by our experiences. But in reality, what it means is it's that emotional thought process that sits on top of the decision making, and it informs everything and how we view mindset. I hate jargon. Okay. So I have a jargon free life. And mindset is just a popular word to represent a values or a set of beliefs that shapes how we deal with it and rank information. Not everything can be a 10 out of 10 priority. Not everything can be a 1 out of 10 priority. You got to figure out that hierarchy, what comes first and what comes last. Okay. And that also affects money. So I don't know if I told you this. When I taught a program for the middle schoolers back in Arizona when my kids were going through. And one of the, not the first class, but one of the later classes, a bunch of the girls brought in a bunch of Frappuccinos because they were relatively new at that point. And I looked and I realized a couple of things. One, the young women who had jobs, like babysitting jobs, what other jobs, were not the ones who brought in the fraps. But I saw them out on the desks and I looked at them and I said, okay, how much were they? And I think they were about $4 at that point in time. And I said, okay, so how much did it cost for you to buy the Frappuccinos? Did you earn the money? They said no. Okay, so how much did it cost for whoever gave you the money to give you the money to buy the Frap? And they said $4. I said, wait a second, there's taxes. There's federal income taxes, there's state income taxes, there's sales tax. So how much did it cost? And they mentally did some calculations, a little annoyed at the algebra of it. And then I said, okay, back up a little bit. With everything that person has to spend money on, from the roof over your head to your clothes, to your shoes, to your schoolwork, to your food, to insurance, all of those things, where does that Frappuccino fall on the hierarchy? And they looked at me and they were shocked. I'm like, is that a want or a need? And they said, well, that's a want. I said, okay, where does it fall on the want scale? And they looked at me and they were totally shocked too. And I said, look, if I spend that money or give you the money to buy the Frappuccino, what do I have to give up in order to pay for it? There's always a trade-off, okay? And you have to live with that. And that's also part of the reasoning. And how you view that $4 Frappuccino and where it falls into those trade-off hierarchies, that's part of the mindset and that's part of how we operate. Does that help explain that?
Yeah, yeah, it helps absolutely. So you're stating facts that we all do, but where is the psychology behind it that will, um, for lack of a better term, make a micro, just a mic. I do this thing that I do called Micro Victories, where I help people solve their
Right.
problems in 3 calls. But so, what kind of micro victory can we give them here that will get them to go, oh, like it's just a little babyest of babyest steps. I forget who it was. Wasn't Simon? But they said that if you can make the goals small enough, everybody
Right.
wins.
Right.
Nobody loses their goal if you can make it small enough and they can start to. So what kind of micro victory um, can we start? And where does a micro victory come from? And why is a micro victory easier than, like, I want to make $1 million this year, let's say, but I haven't made 100. So I mean,
Right.
but people said that I want to make $1 million, but you haven't even made $1 yet, or 100, or whatever. So where is the line? What is the way? Oh, one.
Boy, don't do that. Don't do that.
I know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I forgot you don't like that one. But no, seriously though, what is a micro victory, or a small, and maybe give 3 or 4, because it might not fit for me, but it might fit for this other person. Whatever, you know more than I do. So what
Okay. So
and
one
where
of
does
the
it
things,
come from? More importantly,
so let's start off with this. One of the things that a lot of people do traditionally that I find really unhelpful is they say, have somebody draw up a budget. Well, first of all, the word budget acts like a constraint. It's like, oh, you're controlling me, you're constraining me. Oh,
yeah,
you're setting up bumper rails. No. What I want people to do is I want people to stop and think about every dollar or every $20 bill in their hands, or every time they use that debit card. I hate that card because it's so easy to spend and not realize how much you're spending.
yeah,
Okay. So one of the things I want people to do is to look, because most of the bank accounts have this. Every time you spend money off of an account, it tracks it on some levels, and most of them have the ability to flip a switch and show you where your money's going. Okay. So
yeah,
then that becomes sort of a thing. So one of the things I'll say to them is, where do you think your money is going? And before, let's do it by category and just tell me where you think it's going. Just give me a rough percentage. And then when they flip the switch, their mind's blown away. One, they don't have to do it, it's right there for them. Two, it's not something they're going to argue about. And sometimes they find that they have more room if they become strategic and they start saying, I can use my tools the way I use the other tools in my life. Okay, I don't have to be afraid of them. I can use them. And so that's also a big micro victory when they start to realize, okay, I don't have to go through this whole process. I don't have to make it complicated. I can make this super, super simple. I can look and see, all right, let's make a shift. Let's say I need to give up my Starbucks habit, which I'm going to freely admit I have a Starbucks habit and it's a bad one and I need to give it up. Okay, for a lot of reasons. But I can make that shift. I can turn around and say, you know what? For the sake, here's one that I remember talking and negotiating with somebody that I mentored. He and his new wife at the time were looking to buy a house and they needed to cut back on their spending. And they were going out with friends and hanging out with people and they were going to bars and restaurants. And I said, stop for a second. If you love socializing and if all of you are in the same stage of life, why don't you arrange once a week to meet at somebody's place? Okay, and everybody bring either a bottle of wine or contribute some food and bring it in and look at the amount of money you're not spending
yeah,
because you're not going out and spending $15 to $20 on a shot of whatever. Okay. And he looked at me and he did it for 3 months. And he and his wife were stunned at how much money they saved. And it was actually more fun because people felt more comfortable
Yeah.
doing it. Okay. So if the objective is to maintain that social interaction, if you're improving the social interaction and the financial interaction, and you're surrounding yourself with people who share that value and that goal, it all becomes a reinforcement mechanism. There are other things that you can do, little simple things. One of the things that I'll have people do is it's like, okay, so let's do a protective thing that you can do. When it comes time for you, if you're working for someone else and they offer benefits, one of the things I'll say to them is the first benefit you sign up for, it's not the retirement account, although I want you to do that. I want you to look and see if they offer long-term disability. Why? You're 70%, you run the risk, you have a 70% chance of actually experiencing a disability event through no fault of your own where you're not able to work. How much easier is it for you to sleep if you know that for the cost of one Starbucks drink or maybe one adult beverage per pay period, you've protected yourself on the backside? And
Uh,
I've seen people in their 20s and in their 30s either use the policy or regret not having it, not having signed up. Okay. So all you need to do is to see that once to realize, hey, there's an easy solution. And it's very, very simple. There are small things that you can do along the way. I'm not looking for big changes at first because that's not sustainable. I'm looking for small changes that convince you, hey, I can do this. And then you can actually shift with it. And there's a whole system that I use with people that we build out very, very slowly. And we tie it into their psychology, their future self vision that actually helps them to continue going and to build on it. Does that help?
yeah, it does. I just don't think that's micro enough. So because, and I always say, when you say budget, I say it's the B word, right? It's just as good, right? Because everybody's like like that. So I wish I could remember, but like, oh, it was Jordan Peterson. He was dealing with a person that was just lived in filth. His room was he was living at home in his room. It was filthy, and he says, "Okay, just vacuum up your room. Just that's all you got to do is vacuum your room." And the guy goes, "Great,"
Right.
and he went home and he got the vacuum and he put it in the door. He like angled it at the door. So all week long he walked over over it
And
back
he had to think about it every time he did it.
and didn't vacuum, and he came back and had to tell Jordan. Jordan says, okay, it's not small enough, right? And so now we're just going to go look at the sock drawer and just look at the sock drawer. And then the next week it was like, now which sock are you going to, put together or whatever. But so micro. So as far
I'll
and
give you one. I'll give
okay,
you one. I'll give you one. And I had a client do this. He said that at the beginning of his journey, he wound up, he was overspending. His bills were always late. He had a low credit score. So I had him do two things. Once every morning when he got up, all I wanted him to do was to click on his bank account. What was in the checking account? That was it. Okay. And he did that. And then once a week, I had him look at the credit score. As painful as it was, he just had to look at the credit score.
okay.
After he looked at the credit score, he could do something fun as a reward for doing something awful. So we habit stacked it. Okay. When you get up, you you do your thing, you sit down in front of the laptop, you open it up, you do it, then you get a reward. Great. Then after a few months of looking at it, actually a few weeks, I had him take a whiteboard, a cheap whiteboard, nothing expensive, that had a calendar on it.
Like that whiteboard.
Like that one, but a little bit bigger because I wanted a
Okay.
calendar. And I wanted him at the end of the month, look forward to the future month and have him write on each day that a bill was due, how much it was so that he could visualize it. And I also had him set up automatic payment on it so that it would go on those days. And if that meant like with my water bill, I have to automatically go in and say, I want you to pay this much. And it does it. And I had it programmed so that he knew the money was coming out on those days and it was scheduled. And that whiteboard was right outside his bedroom. So every time he walked either in or out of it, he had to see it. Okay. And he had to see what was there. By writing it in, he reinforced that it was going out. By scheduling it, he was there. By looking at the bank account and knowing what was going to go out and when, he knew how much he was going to have and not have. Very quickly, the late payment stopped. Very quickly, the credit score went up. But all of those things are small, little micro victories. Just looking at the bank account every morning reinforced that message. Just looking at that credit report every week reinforced the message. And we had to do the good with the bad. We knew it was hard and it was going to be painful, but it worked.
Yeah, I like the fact also that you rewarded you had a reward system in there, so it wasn't all negative. It wasn't like look at the bank account, look at my credit score. Oh my God, it's like okay, I did it. I get to reward myself. And for me, it would be chocolate because my name's Steven. I'm a chocoholic. But
That was mine.
yeah, so but no, that the rewarding it that increases the chance that you'll do it again. Like if it's painful, you want to shy away from it, and so that makes total sense as far as getting micro victories to continue, which I guess is the real crux of the problem is like it's like a New Year's resolution, right? I guess like I'm going to lose 20 pounds, and then usually it lasts 2 or 3 weeks, and then they're not in the gym anymore. But if you were to, well, this would be interesting. Tell me what you think about this. If you did make that resolution, let's just say, I don't know how you can transfer it over into financial, but since I'm on this, um, and you gave yourself, this would be bad, I don't know, but you gave yourself a small treat, like not a full large chocolate covered cherry blizzard with 2 scoops of M&Ms and extra cherry sauce. Not that I've ever had that, of course, but you did like a Hershey's Kiss or something every
Mhm.
time you went to the gym, something small that says, yay, I did it. Um, I can see that actually maybe in the beginning, uh, but then you could change that sugar high to a fruit sugar high, let's say, and then you could change that fruit sugar high to carbs sugar high, and then you could change those carb sugar high to uh, protein sugar high, and it might take a whole year. But I mean, if you've got like 20, 40, 60 years left, 80 years left, I mean, that's a drop in the bucket, right? So yeah, not so bad. Because I will have guests on here that do health, are big into the health. So and I am too. But anyway, what do you think about that as far as financial stuff?
Well, here's the thing. I want people to come up with their own list of rewards. What motivates you?
Right.
Okay. So I'm a
Exactly.
chocoholic too, but the more I exercise and the more responsible I am with the food I take in, the less sugar I crave. Okay. And the more I sleep, less sugar I crave. So I can now walk the mall and not want to buy a darn thing. Okay. I don't feel the need to buy. I like to be there ever since the pandemic because I like being around people. All right. So sometimes I need a people
Yeah.
break. Okay. And so that's a reward for me. I'm taking the time for me. So my question is, what is it that you can do to take the time for you that is a sufficient reward? Is it going out with some friends, even to a Starbucks, even though it's expensive, hanging out with them, and then maybe going and play soccer, maybe going and play tennis?
Yeah.
Okay. All the way along, if you habit stack it, you can actually build things out. The point is to be intentional. The point is to be intentional with the people around you and to be intentional with what you're willing to do and really state what motivates you. So, one of the things that I do with people all the time is I will do the future self vision exercise. And I do it for myself and I do this with other people. I basically will say to myself, I will say in 3 years, where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing? And I will get linear and specific. Where am I? What's in the room? Describe the furniture, describe the wall, describe the situation, describe the colors, describe the smells. Okay. Who's there with me? What dogs are with me? All of those things. And I will write it out in paragraph form. That's what I want. And then I will literally record it into my phone. Why? Because every night before I go to bed and first thing in the morning when I get up, I will play that back to myself. Why am I doing that? Because my mind, I'm programming my mind, my subconscious to move me towards that. And then part of the exercise is, if I really truly want this, what, if I begin with the end in mind and work backwards, what steps do I need to take? And I can break those down as small as I need to. And then I schedule block them out into a whole process. And I do this with goal setting. I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be financial. I do this with goal setting with people all the time. And I'm going to be running a program just on that. The idea is to use your mind and the power of your mind in small, discrete, manageable steps to hit the goals. So I think I discussed with you the construct, function, health, fitness, and performance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I love that. I got that from physical fitness. And I love that when it comes to any area of your life. But let's do financial and define that. Okay. Function is all the different parts of your financial world. Okay. So your credit, your debt, your income, your insurance. Okay. Do you have that backside protection and your investments? Okay. So that's part, and your taxes. Are your taxes paid in full? Do you have a tax liability? Is there a tax situation that you're avoiding? Whatever it is. Then you have to work on that, make sure everything is functional and everything is healthy. You move to the health stage. The fitness stage is when you're proactively funding and managing your goals. And performance is that financial freedom where you've built out enough wealth underneath you that it pays you, that you don't have to give up on your goals and work in order to fund them. Okay, when you're completely self-funding. And that is sort of the construct I like to work with people on. You can't do it all at once. You cannot go straight up to the penthouse
Yeah.
and have it be sustainable. Okay. It
Yeah.
just doesn't work.
No, it totally doesn't. So there's some good insight on that. I know that you have been doing a lot of studying in the psychology
Mhm.
of why people don't succeed with their financial literacy, and I think you've got a program now.
Yes, I do.
So yeah, so you mind?
No, absolutely not. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate that. So here's the deal. There are some people who are skilled enough at self-control and change that they can read about what they need to do and then go ahead and do it. And maybe that's 5%, maybe that's 10% of the population. But if you look at the Prochaska model of transformative change, 80 to 90% of us are stuck in the well, 70 to 80 are stuck in pre-consideration. Like, yeah, I think there's a problem. Let me maybe think about changing it. Then there's the consideration phase. Okay. And then the question is, do you move into the planning phase where you're actually planning for change? And then it's a question of when you move to planning, then there's activation when you put in the work and you start doing the change. The reality is our psychology is there to protect us and to protect us from future pain. So the pain has to be oftentimes larger. The pain of change has to be smaller than the pain of staying where you are. So it usually means somebody has to hit a crisis point that they say, all right, I'm willing to change. The cost of staying where I am is too heavy, it's too high. And so for me, once I have somebody who's saying, okay, I'm at a crisis point, I want to change, I have to change, what am I going to do? So for young people, it's usually I'm graduating from college, I'm having a hard time paying my bills, and I've got massive debt. How am I going to build out my dreams? What am I going to do? And even if you increase your income dramatically, which I want you to do, if you keep increase your spending, you have that lifestyle creep, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and giving you all the information in the world is not going to actually help most people. It's going to be, let me explain to you the pain of doing that versus the temporary emotional high of acquiring the stuff versus I want to teach you the skills so that you can build out what you want. And it's really a question of understanding the dopamine systems, dopamine regulators, all of that stuff. And my program is designed to actually help people make those shifts. So do you want more steps on how we do that?
Micro victory. I'm going to be using that word a lot. Micro victory. It's trademarked, so use it as much as you want. You can. I'll give it to you. So
Okay.
it's on the tape now. So you can go to court and say, hey, no, he said I could use it. So
Okay, so one of the micro victories I'll have people do is we'll talk about what a wealth mindset is right at the beginning of the show. So we use from the information from the Millionaire Next Door and others, what are specific things within a truly wealth mindset, a mindset that fuels building wealth and being financially successful versus where people are. And I'll look at that and say, okay, here are 20 different things. What are the biggest things that stand out to you as being different from the way you think about wealth? And then we'll work on that. And what we'll do is we'll create.
you know what? Before we do that, okay, put me on the spot.
Go for it.
I don't know what the question is, but go ahead and ask me again.
Okay, give me a thing that you think about wealth that, or what have you learned from the past about wealth and money that you now know wasn't right,
That wasn't right. Oh, see,
that didn't serve you?
it didn't. I don't know if that was. If this is. I'm going to give you an example. I still do, but my Tai Chi instructor was in Canada, and the
Mm-hmm.
first time I went to Canada and I exchanged the money, and I was paying for it, I didn't feel like I was using money. It didn't seem real to me. I was just handing this thing over.
Right.
So that was kind of a negative. I really didn't look at money as what it really was, a tool to get better. It was just a thing, that
Right.
so
Okay, that's one thing. So what I will do with people is something that actually a college professor did with me. She said pull a $20 bill out of your pocket, out of your purse, and put a $20 bill on the desk. And she said, tell me everything that you could buy with that $20 bill.
okay,
Now, okay. Then she said, imagine what that $20 bill could have bought for you 10 years ago.
yeah,
Much bigger. Okay. And then she looked and said, imagine what it's going to be able to buy for you 10 years from now. And that's a really key thing when you think about it to understand the perils of inflation. It also is the thing to think about when you think about debt, because debt is a future tax on your earnings. It's going to pull it away. It means that even if you earn more, you have to earn more than the debt and earn more than the inflation and your taxes in order to be able to spend the same amount of money.
okay,
Okay. So when I look at people and I say, if you're, from that classroom, that first day that I had a young lady say that she wanted to spend $50,000 a year at that point. So that was 15 years ago on college at UC San Diego because she wanted to be a marine biologist. I said, okay, tell me what a marine biologist does. She couldn't tell me. Tell me how much they earn. She couldn't tell me. Tell me who hires them. She didn't know. I said, okay. So how much? She said, but it's going to take me 6 years to get a bachelor's and a master's in marine biology. I said, so it's $300,000 worth of schooling, not counting inflation over time, those 6 years. And she hadn't done the math. And then when I looked at her and I said, okay, so you're going to acquire an education, and how are you going to pay for this? And she said, student loans. I said, okay, what's it going to take for you to be able to pay that back? What are you going to have to give up in order to pay that back? And that mental construct is what brought her up short. It's like, look, go after marine biology. I am supportive of you going after your dream, but tell me what you're going to do with it
right.
and how you're going to pay for it. And I was shocked, by the way, that the parents didn't object to what I was saying. They were thrilled, but very few of them had had the willingness to have these conversations with their own children.
Why is that? Why do I? So here's my financial education from my dad, who I love, but this is my financial education, and I think I was somewhere between first grade and fifth grade.
Right.
Yeah, it was. I don't know where it was, so I'm old enough to remember it. But I said, Dad, how much do you make? And he goes, you don't need to know how much I make. I pay the bills. That was my financial education. Why? I mean, and my dad was I always, this is my fun joke, but it's real. My dad was in the CIA, certified internal auditor, right? So, and so he knew about money and he was smart about money, but why would he not, why, and then, this is, many, many years ago, but why is it, well, the rich seem to, school their kids on the
Yes, they
value of
do.
money and everything, but the poor, we don't. I mean, when I was young, and I just don't
Yeah,
understand it. I mean,
yeah.
what is the emotions that are the reasoning or both for I mean, I didn't do it very much with my kids. I didn't teach them the value of money when they were growing up as much as I should have, or at all.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I did or not. So I have to think about that. That'd be
So
another.
a couple of things. It's embarrassment. It's fear. Oh my God, I'm going to have to admit to what I have and what I don't have. It's I don't know what I'm looking at. So I don't know if I can actually do this. It's the embarrassment factor is real. I remember having an argument with my mother. So as a financial planner, I don't see the house I live in or the house you live in or anybody's house as an investment. It's the roof over your head.
Right.
Okay. And an investment property in real estate. And by the way, I'm a big fan of people putting some of their money into real estate. I don't like all of your eggs in any one basket. Okay. But I'm a huge fan of it. Huge for diversification purposes. If you have the skill set to manage it. But having said that, if you want an investment or real estate property as an investment, you have to be able to show me that you're getting money from it. You're developing income from it. All
Right.
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 And an investment isn't an investment unless you're earning money from it.
And,
Now,
and, and I'll capitalize on that because this is, I always hear real estate agents go this, your house is your biggest investment. How much money did you make? Well, I've got 50% of it paid off, but how much money did it put in your bank
correct.
today? What was the cash flow of the house? Well, there's no cash flow, then it's not an investment. So
Right.
it's a
And,
hard thing for people to realize, right?
well, and that's the old piece of it. It's like I need a roof over my head. I don't want to live in the park. I don't want to live in the woods. Okay. So I need a roof over my head. So this is really a liability because I've got responsibilities for it.
Yep.
Because I own it, I'm responsible for the taxes, I'm responsible for the upkeep, repairs, all of it. Okay. So it's a liability. Now, here's the other thing. I'll make it simpler. Don't tell me that your Louis Vuitton purse is an investment.
Yeah, you're right. It's the same as that. I had to think about that for a second. No, that's an expensive. Yeah, that's an expensive purse.
It is a use
It
piece.
didn't
It
bring
is a
me any
tool.
money in.
Here's the thing, it's a tool. It's a
Yeah.
tool to carry your stuff. It's a tool because, like, I know some people who are very, very highly compensated people in the public eye, who are very highly paid coaches, whatever. They use their clothing to convey success.
But
All right.
it's still not an it's still
It
not
is not
it's a
correct. And I
liability.
understand why they do it, and I get it. But I can tell you that a lot of the people who wind up financially successful are not the ones who go into a um, Chamber of Commerce meeting and saying, I'm super successful and I have a lot of money, so listen to me. Okay. That's not who they are. They're not the ones wearing the very, very, very expensive watch. They're not the ones wearing the $3,000 Louis Vuitton. I've seen them do it, but they don't do it all the time. They don't flaunt it. They don't
Right.
flash it. Okay. There are times when it's appropriate and there are times when it's not. I'll never forget going to a particular meeting. I won't mention which organization, but there were a bunch of women there. And I swear to God, it looked like the Louis Vuitton monster had vomited out all the fakes on the floor. People were not using real ones, but they were trying to convey that they had money that they didn't have. Whereas people who are truly financially successful use their tools and they're not interested in trying to impress anybody. They don't need to.
Right.
Okay, they are confident in who they are and in their skin. And there are times when they'll wear the expensive stuff, and there are times when they won't. But it's not about impressing other people. Okay, and that's the whole point of this. They use their tools accordingly. And you have to sort of stand back and say, okay, what are you doing with your money?
That right there is a micro victory. That right there resonated with me And maybe it's just, and you know, it takes time, right? You've said some things, it's compounding on me. I'm thinking about this, I'm asking this question, but say that again, just because it needs to be said again.
What? That it's the people who have money are the ones who are confident in themselves. They don't have to earn your approval about how much they have, and they frequently don't flaunt it. Okay, if they wear it, they wear it. If they don't, they don't. They're confident in who they are and what they have and their financial success and freedom such that they're not looking for affirmation or for your approval. They just
Right.
don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that brings up another pet peeve of mine. When I go into a Chamber of Commerce meeting and people are giving the mantra, know, like, and trust, and then they'll say, well, someone they know, like, and trust, and they say that person has a lot of money. The answer to that is, do they? Because I've seen the balance statements of certain people, like that doctor versus that other person. And let me just tell you, the other person was just, he didn't flaunt it at all. By the way, that other person, that couple, they understood the stocks, they understood the bonds, they understood the different ones that they had. They understood each and every one of their investments. Yes, they hired professional advice, but they were equipped to manage the professional advice. Okay, they understood the tools. And if I said something that they had never heard before, they went back and thought about it. And they said, okay, I agree with this, but I'd like more clarification. Or I read this and I read that. Can you help me to understand? There was no hesitation. They proactively managed it.
It's the second time you said that, and I'm going to put it out there this time. Uh, Understood the tools versus understanding money. Is it the same or is it different? Or does one build on the other, or is it the chicken, the egg? Which came first? But so that's I guess my realization when I was in Canada is I all of a sudden understood what this thing was that I was because I didn't think of it
Yeah.
as real, and now I'm having to this. It would be like turning this in and saying, "Yeah, give me the pizza," right? You know, it's like, well, how did I get that? Bitcoin, right? Okay, so
Let me give you a construct for that. Okay. In life, large issue, you have three different things. You have what you can physically do and what you know how to do. You have people in your world that you can ask for help, whether you have to pay or you have to trade or they're giving it to you. Okay. And then you have the physical objects that you can use to do things. All
okay,
right. And money is the intermediary that you can use to learn how to do something, get taught how to do something, buy the tools, or pay somebody else to do it for you.
right.
That's it. So when I look at things like, for example, I look at the financial system, it's a system, and you have to learn how to navigate and manage the system. The money is the tools inside of the system and how you're using it to build out what you want. So, for example, I call it the empowerment system or the ownership system. It's the documentation, it's the medical power of attorney, general power of attorney. Why? Who has the ability and the instruction and the authority to go in and make decisions for me in the event that I'm not able to do it? I would rather have my choice be in there to do it and have this person be able to act on it than have to go in front of a judge, which takes time
And
and
money.
and money and a limited authority to step forward. Okay. The retirement planning system, 401ks, 403bs, okay, self-employment programs, all of those things, IRAs, those are systems and they are meant to work together. And you have to learn how to navigate those systems and build out what you want. But the tools are the money inside of those systems. And you just get to decide strategically how to make this work for you that gives you the greatest confidence of getting to what you want for the risk you want to carry.
Ooh, I like that. The greatest confidence to get what you want. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's all about you and your transformation. This is all about your life. If you're talking to a financial advisor who's positioning himself and marketing him or herself based on the assets they have under management, my response is this is my money, okay? And it's a privilege to work with me. Okay, as a client. That's what I want clients to think. I want you as a client to think, this isn't your money, this is my money. The advisor needs to understand it's not about them, it's about the client, the transformation the client achieves, the success the client reaches, the goals they surpass, their risk tolerance, their comfort with risk. That's something else. Like, I'll disagree with a psychologist all day long on this. They'll say that your ability to tolerate risk is pretty much etched in by the time you're 6. And my response is no, that's not true. Every time I talk to a client, every time I talk to a prospect, I'm always asking them what's going on in their lives. What do they feel? What's happening? How are they feeling about different things? Why? Because based on external circumstances, your ability to tolerate risk can change. It can go in either direction.
Yeah. And it depends on what you're talking, risk with money, risk with meeting strangers, risk
Right.
working out, changing your
Right.
workout. Yeah.
I mean, if you're telling me, for example, you're injured and you can't work out and you can't work, all of a sudden I'm going to be looking at your money and saying, okay, let's talk about how that affects your feelings about your money and your accounts. Okay. And it's not just because I care about people as people, but it's because as a responsible person working with you, I need to really understand what's going on in your life.
Yeah. So there's the micro victory. There's the micro victory challenge. What are you, this is, I like this. I like where I'm going with this. What are you willing to risk so that you can succeed? And it just has to be the idiot. So, and I think the reason I like this is because if you start saying risk, because people are like, oh, risk aversion, I don't like risk. And, we all don't like it to a certain extent. I mean, the bronze medalist or person that gets the bronze medal in the military risks something, and they usually do it because they're scared. They're scared. They're not doing it because they're brave. They're doing it because they know they need to do to save their team. That they're willing to risk that. But all that risk came from little bigger victories getting to smaller and smaller till we go to their childhood. I'll bet you we could. So what I think that would be the question. What are we willing to risk that gives us a reward, but isn't so much that it would cause any type of depression? And because depression's a big thing right now, especially with the younger generation.
Yeah.
So that would be. You could probably talk more on that than I can. So.
Well, and here's the other thing that I would say to people. It's like, look, anytime you're in the system, whether you want to be or not, okay? Every dollar you earn, save, spend, or invest, okay, is an expression and participation in the system. So if you take your money and you put it in a mattress, or you dig a hole, or you just leave it in a bank account, let's talk about the risk of that. Inflation and taxation are going to destroy your ability to buy stuff with it, because as time progresses, that money's going to buy less and less.
Okay, so that makes sense, but
what is your fear? Okay.
So
The only way to conquer anxiety and fear is by movement. And I'm not
okay,
asking for big movement.
okay.
One little step forward at a time.
Forward
Okay.
motion. That's in almost all my screensavers and stuff like that. It's my every year it's the same 2 words, forward motion. That's all I want.
Right. I want them to do a couple of things. I want them to choose themselves. I want them to worry about themselves. I want them to take small forward steps towards their own success.
Okay, I want to challenge you on this because there's a big I don't know if dichotomy is the right word, but there's a big there's a viewpoint that we need to have crowds, not rioting crowds, but crowds for movement, and then there's the other side that says you first.
Okay, so
change you first, and then you can change other people. But there's other people that just say, no, I have this idea. Let's get a bunch of people together and let's move forward. With the micro victories, which would be, that would be a good word, which would be most economical, I guess, would be the question that I would ask on that.
What I would ask people to do is to realize that they can't change anybody else. So what they need to do is make the decision to succeed and then choose very carefully and very specifically, not with
Okay.
cruelty, not with cruelty. And it's not being rude. It's saying my dreams are important to me. And therefore, I'm going to choose people who support my dreams and surround myself with them. Like that young man that I mentored many years ago, he specifically stayed closely connected to the people who were going after the same aspirations and were willing to make the behavior shifts. They didn't shift everything they did. They made one big key critical thing that fed and fueled their ability to do what they wanted to do. Okay?
Yeah, but nobody will get up in the morning and help you as much as you should be able to get up in the morning and help you.
Correct. And here's the other piece. No one should care or does care or will care about your success or your results more than you should.
Right.
Okay. No one can. I don't know what Stephen Beaver should do. Okay. I don't know what this other person should do. I don't know how much money they should put away. I don't know how much money they need in an emergency fund. They talk about these rules of thumb to make it simple.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not. I had a client many years ago who was here from China. Okay. He was in tech. And he already had his return ticket purchased because he knew he wasn't going to be here for very long. And he already had his last month's rent on deposit. So he looked at me and he said, how much do I really need for an emergency fund? I have no debt. I have money already put away. How much do I need for an emergency fund? I can invest everything I earn after my expenses because I know I'm not going to be here and I already have my return ticket. And I really, we settled on a 2 months worth of expenses just in case there were things he needed to do at the end. Okay. He had a fully funded HSA. So even if he had a medical thing happen in the United States, there was money to pay for it. So it's one of those things where you really have to look at yourself and say, who am I? Where am I? What's my condition? And sometimes that's scary, but sometimes that's really, really empowering. Because you realize, wow, I'm in a position where I can make choices. Freedom is really a 4-syllable word for, freedom is a 2-syllable word for responsibility. When you are free, you are able to choose how you respond. And the reality is you only have choice in the moment. What am I going to do right now? I can't choose and change anything that I chose yesterday. It's gone. And really beyond that, okay, I can say, I want to do this in the future, but all I can do right now is focus on the choices in front of me. So if we break it down into very, very small, manageable steps, and in the program, we break it down in the mindset into very small, manageable steps each day that you can do and that build over time. And the funny thing is, people don't realize that the progress is sort of beneath the surface, but much like physical fitness, there will come a time when you'll see tangible results of the fitness and the
Right.
gain and
Right. And
progress.
that's a question that I always like to ask people about physical fitness can you tell me, let's just say I'm 20 pounds overweight. Can you tell me the exact date that I got in shape? You can't, right? It's just it's like I think I got that from Simon Sinek. I think he was talking about brushing teeth. Was when are my teeth healthy, right? You just
Mhm.
do it, and maybe you miss a day here or whatever, but you keep doing it, and then all of a sudden. So I guess this is the same thing with your micro victories. It's when will your micro victories turn into medium size or large ones? Well, you can't. That's a thing Simon talks about is the end game is really we're not playing a finite game. We're playing an infinite game,
Yeah.
and I think that's the problem. I think that's where the real problem is we look at money because we make money at a certain amount every month. Let's just say, and so that's a finite game. And it's hard for us to realize that finite game can actually be turned into an infinite game. There's some thought processes there on that.
Yeah, and it's always about, here's the thing, it has to be about the individual. What motivates you is not necessarily what motivates me, and that's a great thing. When we try to put people into boxes, it doesn't work, and people resent it. And
Yeah.
truth is, I resent it. Don't put me in a box, okay? I look at the box as the financial system as it doesn't have to be a hard construct. What I try to do is twist the box into the shape it needs to be to fit the client. Okay. So, for example, I'll say to people, tell me what you want in your life. I'll give them permission to dream.
Right.
And frequently, for a lot of people, they've never given themselves permission to dream. Tell me what that looks like. Tell me what that looks like. And I'm, constantly doing that. I was doing that with a financial planning client recently. And she and her husband have 6 grandchildren. Very, very successful woman. And she said, well, I have this. Do I have enough money? She used to say to me, you want to talk about being frugal and intentional. She called me up and said, do I have enough money to buy the expensive yogurt? And the answer was, yes, you do. Please go buy the yogurt you want. Okay. And she's like, are you sure? I said, yes. Okay. And when we were doing this, she said, I said, what about other goals? I kept doing her planning and we kept adjusting for different risk and different goals. And then she said, I said, what about an education goal for your grandkids? And she said, well, what would that entail? I said, well, it depends on what you want to do. And what she really wants to do is not necessarily pay for all of it because she believes they won't value it if they
Right.
don't have
I
stake in
agree
the
with that.
game.
I agree with that.
So
Yeah.
what she wanted and what we built into the plan was for her to pay for about 40% of their tuition, not tuition, room and board. Okay. So we researched the state schools for the state that she lives in and came up with the tuition cost and then escalated it up and then back entered it to make sure that we could actually hit what that number would look like for each one of the grandkids based on their age. And that's part of the planning thing that I do. So that's on the advisory side. I will do pretty advanced stuff, but I want people, go ahead.
I just want to emphasize, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you ask the questions and you do most of the heavy lifting. Because see, to me, this sounds like, oh my God, this is a lot. I'm going to have to do this or that. But I imagine the questions, and I know they are, at least I think they are fairly simple questions. And maybe you have to do a little bit of deep thought. But I mean, it's not. It's starting to. I don't want the crowd to think that this is
No, I
a
don't want them
huge
either.
victory. This is a little victories, just little victories that,
Well, here's the little victory. Most people who are financially successful at some point or another don't realize how successful they've been. And unless they're going to dramatically alter the way they spend their money, I had the largest client I ever had at one point, wound up moving and he went down into the sunshine. And when he did that, he bought himself a BMW convertible. And his wife looked at him and said, you don't need that. And so within a few weeks, he traded in the BMW convertible and got something a little bit more modest. Came to visit me in Plano and they wandered around, looked at a Tesla, and his wife walked right out and said, you don't need one of those. Okay. These people have given away more money to charity, and you would never know it from the way they dress and the way they act.
that's
And
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, and the point is, they can afford to buy it. So for me, it's really a question of like at that point, the client that I was dealing with recently when we were doing this, saying, well, can I afford to subsidize this? Can I afford to? Yes, you can. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay. What I want, that's the end stage. That's at the end. You want to be in that position at the end. What I'm concerned with and we're talking about here is helping people get to that stage, helping people actually build out enough and do enough of a mental shift that they can be in that position to do those things for the people they love. You don't work. You work to live and to provide for yourself and for your family and the people you love. You don't live to work.
Right.
We're not slaves.
Unfortunately, most people are, but we shouldn't be. Is what I would say to something like that. Hence, why we're having this discussion.
Freedom is scary. Don't get me wrong. Freedom is scary. When you have to make those decisions, it's scary. But what people need to understand is that not making those decisions and letting other people make them for you
Yeah,
is scarier.
Yeah,
It's
and so
scary.
that goes back when I'm dealing with my clients. That I always have an exit strategy, and if you don't know what an exit strategy is, talking to the viewers, not you, I know you do, but an exit strategy is like, for instance, my wife. She has a very successful business, and she needed a back operation, and she was literally out for 2 months. No loss of revenue,
Okay.
right? That she works because she wants to, not because she has to. And that's when you're an entrepreneur, that's a big problem. People become technicians and they don't become a manager. And then finally, what I consider an entrepreneur, which is somebody that owns a business, Richard Branson, right? He owns 400 businesses. He ain't in 400 businesses, right? So, but yeah, that's so. So having the freedom, micro victories allow you to, even on a micro victory, you're gaining a certain amount of freedom that allows you to have more peace of mind that you are going down the right direction. And even if
You're
you,
going,
if you,
you're going down your direction.
oh,
It gives you the peace of
yeah,
freedom to know that it's your path, it's the one you chose, and that here's the thing, if it's not the path you want to be on, you can change it. You're not a
yeah,
tree. You are not planted. Your roots are not in the ground. You can move. And when you take ownership of the fact that, some things are not always the right choice, but you can learn from it and you can get up and you can do better and you can shift,
yeah, yeah,
that feels a hell of a lot better than being stuck
yeah,
in a bad place.
yeah. And that's being stuck is here's the funny thing about stuck, because I deal with that a lot with clients. Um, we all get stuck. You'll get stuck again. Like you'll learn something and then you'll be stuck because you know you need to learn something else. Or
Right.
you're working out and you reach a certain level and you're like, yeah, but I'm stuck. I can't get to that next level. Or you got a mental, like Carol Dweck says, there's a fixed mindset and growth mindset, and there are some areas she admits that she's out of fixed mindset on. She's stuck, right? So, but you got to pick your battles, and that's why we do that. But that being stuck is natural, and we look at it. We all we because we look at it as we look at it as a finite game. We're like, oh, we're stuck, and we don't, and it'll always be that way. But it's an infinite game. I mean, and
Can
change.
I can I give you two things that I want you to think
Yeah,
about?
absolutely.
Okay, so two things for everybody to think about. What is resilience? What does it mean to you?
It means doing the thing that you really don't want to do, but you go ahead and do it anyway.
Okay, but whoa, whoa, whoa. So when I think of resilience, I think of that old phrase, get knocked down 5 times, get up six.
Yeah, yeah,
Miyagi, Mr. Miyagi.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I
get
say
up.
that to my kids. It's not how many times you get knocked down; it's how many times you get up. And then I go one step further. How many times do you need to get back up? Just one more time.
Right. Okay, but here's the thing. There's a concept, and it's been around for a long time, but it got restated by this one financial expert. Okay. And it's called anti-fragility. And what that means is it's like when you put carbon and iron into the fire, you put them through a pain point and you put them through a pressure point and you add in oxygen and it becomes a lot stronger. It comes out of steel.
Okay.
Okay. So you can choose when you get knocked down to get right back up. If you don't learn, if you don't accept the pain, okay, and you don't get stronger, you're going to keep getting knocked down by the same darn thing. And that's not fun. So the question is, can you accept that nothing is done to you, it's done for you? And every time you get knocked down, it's an opportunity to get stronger and better so that you don't get knocked down again. That's the decision point. Okay. You can embrace that anti fragile mindset and say, I'm going to learn from it and do better next time and not run away from it. You almost have to decide to develop the desire to take on the challenge. It's like it's a quotient where you learn how to turn into the fire and accept the challenge point. When you do that, when you take on something difficult, you get knocked down, you get back up, you get stronger and stronger and stronger. That's when you build something called earned dopamine. And that allows you to take on bigger and bigger and bigger challenges. So the example of this is climbing Mount Everest. No one can go straight to the top of Mount Everest in one shot.
Right.
Okay. You go up a little bit, you come back down. You go up to base camp, you stay there for a little bit, you come back down. You have to do it in stages and you have to get stronger. You have to turn into the challenge and the pain in order to be prepared to take it on. And that's what life is about. It's like, look, I'm not going to be able to go to the top of Mount Everest in one shot. So I'm going to have to take it in stages and build it up and build up my systems to get there. And that's, we joke about this a lot, but there's so much wisdom in the body. And I just wish we would accept that. There's so much wisdom in our body. It's the first way we interface with the world. Okay. If I allowed the pain of getting knocked down when I first tried to walk stop me,
Mhm.
I wouldn't walk. I wouldn't be walking.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be running. Okay. You have to go through that process. And it's like that with everything. So, it's people like the easy dopamine because it's easy. But what happens with it is in your mind, you reset your dopamine lower. You take that base level of dopamine that allows you to do hard things and you degrade it. So you have to protect your dopamine, protect your mindset so that you protect your actions so that you increase your abilities, you increase that dopamine and you can take on bigger and bigger challenges.
So what you're saying is, what you're saying is, basically, we're going to go to working out. If I go full out in jujitsu every day, I will not progress as fast as if I go, let's just say, full out one day and then relax the next day and maybe just do a little bit of drills and then. And I'm not saying this is, but then full out and then relax a little bit. I will succeed faster
Consistency.
that way than I will if I just go straight into it all the time.
Well, consistency will outperform bursts of energy.
Right.
Okay. So it's about consistency. It's about consistently putting in the work and then do the 80-20 rule. 80% should be at pace, 20% should be hard. Allow your system to recover. But if you do that consistently over time, you are much more likely to get to where you are. That's what that middle class couple did, that blue collar middle class couple did, and they got to a great place. And that's what a lot of people just don't do.
So that's how you couple the micro victories with change with growth.
Correct. You have to build it out. It's basically taking a base and taking it and building it up intentionally. Okay. And you are going to get knocked down. But if you accept that and you say, you know what? I don't lose. I play to win. And the reason why I never lose is because when I get knocked down, I learn, I do better, and I go back in. So as long as you don't give up and say, I can't do it, you haven't lost.
Right.
And it's not that I'm saying you're getting a trophy. I'm saying that the actual accomplishment is doable. You don't have to settle. The minute you choose to settle, you've lost. Don't settle for a substitute for your freedom. Own your freedom. I
Right.
want everybody to believe that they can own their freedom. And the reality is that's a belief. It's that spiritual base and it flows into our physical body, our minds, our emotions, our relationships, and our money. Money is nothing more, nothing less than a set of tools. That's it.
Yeah. So that is interesting. So micro victories and freedom should be intertwined, it almost synonymous.
Mhm. It's every little choice you make. That's where your freedom is. I make the choice to be on this Zoom call with you recording this.
Right.
That was a freely made choice of mine. You made the choice for some reason to interview me. Okay. That was a freely made choice of yours. I didn't put a gun up to your head and said, do this or else.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. We make choices. Every day we make choices. Use the time you were given, use the mind you were given, use the choices you have, and make choices and make them with confidence. And if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. Learn from it and move on.
Right. Yeah.
When
That's
you There's a phrase that when you worry, you're actually worshiping the problem. You're worshiping the false god of the problem. You're investing your energy and
Yeah,
your
because you're paying attention to the negative, and that's the neurons are firing, saying, "Let me keep this
uh,
line here," and it might even become myosin. And yeah, I can see that because quantum physics, what you pay attention to happens. So if you keep thinking of the negative, well,
correct.
of course, it's going to happen.
And then on top of all of that, your mind subconsciously moves you towards it. But the other piece to remember too with this is that if you believe that you can, then you can.
Right.
Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're probably right.
Henry Ford. Yeah, absolutely, 100% all day long. Yeah, I totally believe that too. I've seen it too many times,
Right.
and not just in my life, in other people's lives. I mean,
Yeah.
so who is Richard Branson? Who is Oprah Winfrey? They're losers. Richard Branson's got he's ADHD, and he's got the seeing thing, the word dyslexia. Oprah
Hmm.
Winfrey was told on her first show that she was the worst show person out there and should never ever be on there again. Michael Jordan kicked off the varsity team. Who are these losers, right? Babe Ruth struck out more times than he hit home runs. But
I was actually thinking about buying, and I didn't get to there in time. I hesitated, which was a mistake. And it was just this picture at the mall, and it was in one of these sports memorabilia stores. And it talked about all the shots Jordan had made, but
yeah,
also all the shots he hadn't
yeah,
made.
like
And
9,000 or something. Yeah,
yeah, and the reality is that he obviously, if he wouldn't have taken the shots overall, he
yeah,
wouldn't have made the shots he made. Perfection isn't the goal. It never was. It's progress. So as long as you're moving forward, like perfection is not the goal, progress is. What is excellence? Excellence is a commitment to moving in steady progress towards your goals with honor and integrity.
yeah.
That's
So so when you're getting a micro victory, that therein lies one of the problems is we don't realize that because a victory it means an end of an attempt, let's say, but we really should look at that as a continuation. It's not an end. It's just this part it should be seamless. Victory should be seamless. I would think that would be a better maybe. I
so
don't know.
one of the things that I do in goal setting is I talk about the daily wins and I talk about the psychological daily wins that tie into the actual daily wins towards the goals. And one of the most valuable things I ever saw was from a weight loss program where they had a 5-year journal. And you start on day one. It wasn't necessarily January 1st. You could start it at any point in the year. And you track your progress towards goals. And it's literally just a blurb. And the value of doing a 5-year journal like this is that if you stay focused on it, you see the progress that you've done. Each micro victory builds. It's like compound interest. Tiny little bit, day after
Yeah,
day, grows and snowballs into something bigger and bigger and bigger. But likewise, so does debt. Okay. So choose your heart, choose specifically what you want to build. And having a journal like that, even though it's written, can be incredibly powerful. And writing it down, actually physically going through the process of writing it down, can be incredibly powerful.
right on.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh,
This is
this has been enlightening on multiple levels. So, um, how do people find you?
okay. You can always email me, mkaufman@harmonyam.com. You can also reach me through the websites, www.harmonyam.com, or through harmonywealthacademy.com. So I'm always available. I'm always here. And Stephen, quite frankly, you know how to find me. So if
Well, I know
somebody
how to find you, but
yeah, if somebody posts on the on Facebook or wherever this lands, if they want to, they can direct message me through there. And I will happily set up a time where we can talk. So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm available. You can just search under Monica Kaufman, and I'm there. And I'd look forward to talking to you.
right on. So yeah, and what I would like the viewers to do is, of course, subscribe, but more importantly than that, put what your next micro victory is going to be. I think that would be, and it's not just for you. I mean, you never know when somebody goes, wow, I could do that, or wow, I wouldn't do that, but then they go, but that would lead to this idea. So you never know how you're going to, the butterfly effect, right? So,
Okay, so one thing I want to do, and it's the last thing, and this is a value add for people, this is a tip. Psychologically, you want the victory. I want to, whatever it is, okay? Whatever that victory is, I want you to create the affirmation. But a power affirmation doesn't say, I will do it. Say, I am doing it.
uh,
I am strong. I am lean. You do not give yourself or your subconscious room for doubt or room for failure on that. Very, very small. I am this. Okay.
right,
Once you do that, and then I want you to literally look yourself in the mirror first thing in the morning and late at night and say it 10 times strong out loud, not to yourself. Somebody thinks you're talking to yourself. Who do you care? Okay. What do you care? Okay. You're
I've
doing it in the
already
bathroom.
thinks I'm crazy. So yeah,
Well, but you know what? Who cares?
yeah,
Okay. But affirmations where people get into trouble because they don't work, it's because they don't structure them appropriately. You cannot leave room for doubt.
right on.
And actually, if somebody wants a list of 5 affirmations that'll help them move towards wealth, they can email me and I will happily send them.
Awesome. I'll make sure that it's down in the link below, and hopefully we can get it across the screen so that people can just do that. But this has been amazing. I really appreciate you being on the Busy Beaver Club and helping us with getting some financial victories, micro victories.
Oh,
I hope.
I want to see everybody. Look, here's the thing. I want you to be in charge of your own financial future. I want you to own it. I don't want
So,
anybody else to.
so before you go, I just have one fun question. How do you celebrate a win?
Depends. I may scream and dance around the house. Okay. I may call you or somebody else and say, hey, I did this. It depends on the win. If it's a big win, usually I'll take some time alone to really just sit with it. Really just sit with it and absorb it. Okay. Sometimes it's I'm going to go and I'm going to walk around in the sunshine. Sometimes I'm going to take the time off and just absorb. I hit it out of the park. So it depends on the win. It's sometimes it's social, frequently it's relationship wise. The people in my life matter more to me than anything else.
Perfect. All right.
If
Well,
you're in my life, it's because I've intentionally chosen you in my life.
that's smart. That's just get the bad out, the good in. So, all right. And speaking of good, as I always say, good luck, of course, laboring under correct knowledge. I'm Stephen Beaver, your TMV visionary strategist. TMV, baby, take more vacations. That is how we spell your success. You guys have a happy and successful day. See you on the next one. Bye for now.
Thanks. Bye.